Hello, everybody. This is the What is on the Tabletop podcast. My name is Symbio Joe. You can call me Joe. And today I have a very special guest. He is my Wonder Wind twin. He is the bestest dude on the island. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, hello. My name's Phil, and I guess apparently I am the bestest dude on the island, although I can't confirm that.
For me, there might be some challengers, but right now you still hold the title by far.
Well,
for
I'm glad.
for people that do not know, uh, would you mind please explain your
Okay.
generous gift?
Um, so we both follow each other on Instagram, and sometimes people put up competitions. Either they bought two boxes and they didn't use one, or um, somebody was an artist, and to get a bit of traction on their page, they did a competition, and there was a cool piece of artwork that was a Gene Stealer cult, if I remember. Was it a higher ranking member of a Gene Stealer cult?
It was a female Magus, the new
Right.
uh, based on the new model.
Oh, with the big sort of collar thing.
Yes.
That's a cool model. I do like that. I mean, the whole Gene Stealer cult range, I really like it. But that's skipping a bit further. So there's this piece of artwork, and
We
uh,
both entered. I did not know. I did actually not know that you entered too.
I think you tagged me,
Did I?
and we both
Yes, yes,
you tagged me because we've been tagging each other in a couple
yes.
of other
For Wonder
competitions.
Wind Twin Powers.
Yeah, um, wind powers activate. Yeah, so I was notified by the chap that I won the competition, but I I felt bad because you tagged me and I hadn't like anyway. So I ended up you now have the
Yes,
the
I
piece
have
of
now the
artwork.
artwork. I was um, on my way leaving work, getting two messages in my Instagram, and I was like, "Why is this person contacting me? Why are
Mm.
you contacting me?" And at home, I looked at my phone and saw the whole bit, and I was chuffed to bits, as they say on the island. I was very
They
happy,
do.
made the post in my Instagram, and yes, I'm still very grateful. It is still a great picture, and yeah,
It is
I
a cool piece of artwork.
yes, it is. I um, thought that you would be the very first person I would have on this podcast, but you are a busy man, and this is what
Uh,
I want to talk to you about because you are doing quite some work when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, and you are working on a player book right now. Can you please elaborate on that?
yeah. Okay. I'll give you an abridged version of the long story.
Yes.
So the abridged version begins with that I'm allergic to square bases. I'm allergic to right angles, and I have no interest in high elves with swords and shields and rank and file and sort of wheeling around a battlefield as like a square unit all ranked up. I have no interest in that, and successfully avoided that for like the best part of a decade. Even when Lord of the Rings came out and they were on round bases, but they were really square bases. So I was fine with leaving that. And then maybe I was going to say 2 years ago, but I think it was 2018. I sort of thought, oh, Dungeons and Dragons is the thing. I sort of got into that, and then I ended up running. Oh, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. I've only ever been a dungeon master. Well, technically, I played once, but it was ages ago, and it wasn't with dice; it was with cards. So I'm not certain it was Dungeons and Dragons. But I I'm running two games at the moment. one game is set in 2016 America, where it's before El Chapo was captured, and so the sort of premise of the game is you guys are prisoners you have like a special skill or something, and they were sort of released, but under the care of like a private security contractor firm, and their job is to find out Chapo. So that's the setting for that campaign. That's been going on for, I don't know, maybe 18 months now. And then the second campaign, and this is the well, okay, so the first campaign, there aren't rules really in 5th edition D&D for like firearms, like sniper scopes and silencers. It's very square basey. So I do have I think it's from 3rd edition. I'm not sure. It's from like the 90s. But it's more of like a James Bondy feel, like super spies rule set. And like James Bond's fine, and it was good in like GoldenEye and like Moonraker and sort of Timothy Dalton, like the old ones, because that's like a Cold War is like still a thing, and but I'm trying to modernize that rule set for 5th edition and sort of put my own interests in. So there's no like, you can't like, I mean you can, but there's no like casino and suave businessmen and sort of suits and things. It's much more Kevlar body vests and and like torturing cartel members and like breaching in through like getting a big key, like the big metal battering ram through a door and like getting cartel members. It's like, that's the kind of game. It's have you ever seen Ozark on Netflix?
Oh yes, I quite enjoy me some Ozark.
Yeah.
I'm totally up to date with that, and on the role-playing setting-wise, me and my group, we are jumping through different systems right now, and
Cool.
we played a rogue mercenary group in Cambodia,
Cool. Yeah.
and it consisted of a junkie hacker, a escaped triad member, and a ex sex worker with a fable for guns. I played a gorilla. It was a very simple system, and it got really crazy really fast, as you might expect, and we had a blast. It was on the action and role-playing side, it was quite cartoonish. If there was a comic book or a manga of it, I would definitely buy it. I had a lot of vibes from that. It was quite insane and quite funny. We all enjoyed it. But on what I especially want to know, looking what you are describing right now, the problem of bringing a gun to a medieval sword fight. How are you tackling that problem right now? You said you bringing this GoldenEye James Bond rule set up to date to work with 5th edition. So just cutting right in here with my question, how do guns work right now in your system?
That's a good question. So at the moment, in like fantasy D&D, when you're in initiative order, it's assumed that you have 6 seconds to move 30 feet and chop somebody with an axe. which I think 6 seconds is good. But in 6 seconds, you could, if you had a minigun on a tripod on the back of a Toyota Hilux, you could, what's that, like 3,000 rounds? So that is, everybody dies. Like, everybody's dead in 6 seconds.
That is quite the output.
So it's trying to work out. I think it's trying to it's reducing the amount of seconds that a turn takes. So rather than it being one turn is everything happens in 6 seconds, it would be one turn everything is maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and then you only have enough time to shoot maybe 2 bursts from an M16 or like 3 shots from a revolver or something. But you can shoot quickly. If you have a pistol and you're at a firing range, in 2 seconds you could shoot like 5 bullets off. So it's trying to, it's just trying to have its time management and knowing like the different rates of fire for different weapons and understanding what's the maximum amount of bullets if I hold the trigger down for 2 seconds. Like, is that an empty magazine at the moment, or is that like 20 bullets or something? Yeah. So, and then I'm changing the way health and armor values work, because like if you get a bullet inside of you, pretty much dead.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but if I had a bullet,
it depends. It really depends. No, where you get hit there. I mean, role-playing systems, they are very cinematic. They are very in favor of the player sometimes, not all of them, but in favor of the player. But that is a very interesting point. If you have a system with guns, or if you have a combat system at all, how lethal should that system be? And exactly. You are just explaining that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should die. I think you should die.
Stone cold.
I mean, obviously people play games to have fun, and being a badass and soaking up a load of bullets is cool. So the way around that is you don't increase your health sort of ever. So you roll up a first level character, and you have 10 hit points, right? So we'll just say you have 10 hit points. The way you increase your health is by having ablative health points, which is the form of a Kevlar vest or like a more substantial ceramic jacket, or like an experimental. Everybody's played the Call of Duty when there's a juggernaut. Everyone remembers the level where you and the SAS Captain McTavish go in juggernaut suits and go kill a load of people, and you just soak up all these bullets and you just don't die. So that's what I'm working with at the moment, is ablative armor for armor, and once that goes down, then you start beginning to die. If you get shot through your tactical vest jacket or whatever. So there's like 2 stages. There's the first stage, I'm fine, and the second stage, I'm in a death barrel and I'm going to die.
What jumped to my mind right now, how easy is it to hit? Because I can see that you might want to go with a more complex cover system. Have you worked with that idea?
Well, yeah. So far, all my players, one player's got an Uzi classic, and everybody else has been fine to just hoard their money and not buy any sort of carbine rifles. So nobody's really got a rifle at the moment. And it's still sort of early in the campaign, so they're not up against they're not up against guys with a heavy machine gun at the moment, and they're not up against guys with like proper military grade like assault rifles at the moment, and nobody's. So yeah, they're going to have to be careful, I suppose. Really, yeah, cover. Hiding behind objects is going to be a thing. Your armor class is going to be. I guess your armor class goes up. The sort of less of you is exposed. If you're like half behind a doorway, that kind of thing. I guess it's like hull down in Warhammer, the old like 3rd edition or something. Or I think it was in. Did you ever play Inquisitor?
Yes, I played quite a lot of Dark Heresy.
Okay.
I played we started out with Dark Heresy, then we used the better rules from Rogue Trader.
Okay.
And then some rules from Only War. We were just no system is perfect, and with my group that is no more. When we changed game masters, it was always a little bit of pick and choosing what rules we would take, because there are some rules that are notoriously not well written. I'm looking at you, grappling rules. And there are some solutions, better solutions in other rule books. I did not look into the 2nd edition. And talking about that, you want to keep it realistic, because you had the Black Crusade book. Did you read through it, the whole system?
I did not. I'm looking at it. It's on my shelf.
Okay. Because
sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, cutting my guest down because I'm more important. So listen.
No, go away.
Because that system takes a more abstract approach. Semi-automatic shots are 3 shots, and full automatic shots are up to 10 shots. But when you shoot semi or full auto, your chance of hitting increases, and you have a success system. And in semi-automatic, every 2nd success grants you an additional hit, and in full auto, I think every success grants you an additional hit on your target. And you really want to keep it real. I mean, it is always a balance between what do you want, what do your players want. I don't know where you guys are standing there right now.
Yeah, the rule set that I'm sort of looking at for inspiration at the moment. I mean, there's so many firearms rule sets, and it's sort of there's so much to like draw from and read up and look around. But the one I'm sort of working with at the moment is if you do a 3-round burst, that is sort of your ballistic ability isn't compromised, but you have greater chance of doing, like, you have triple damage. But if you start doing sort of bursts of 5, 10 or 15, you end up having like recoil and like muzzle flashes and sort of smoke that would deteriorate your ballistics. So you put more lead down the range, but it's harder to hit your target. Which sort of, to an extent, represents what it's like sort of in real life. But with sort of more training, you can definitely compensate. And different weapons have different sort of kickbacks as well.
Yes.
So it's not just like one size fits all. Like all assault rifles have the same degradation in ballistics. Some are like clearly better and more favored than others. So that's why I want to play around with different assault rifles of the same caliber as well, because I really like the idea of, I guess it's like min-maxing, right? Like this gun has a longer range,
Yeah,
and
it is. It is a role playing game.
yeah,
There's no role play. Well, there can be, but still depends on the system. But the classic D&D is a little bit prone to the min maxing.
yeah. But I kind of like that. I like playing a computer game and looking at the stats for the stopping power of this rifle is better, but the accuracy is less, and,
Well,
and it's like choosing the compromise.
yeah, one is that, but a thing that actually has not happened, which is just jumped to my mind, that is that
Mm,
a player just has a very, let's say, a very good relationship to a certain weapon,
yeah,
and it becomes his personal weapon, no
yeah,
matter the damage output or the firing rate.
yeah,
I it, it really surprises me right now that no none of the players in Dark Heresy really. Well, I guess my Clint Eastwood kind of
mm,
ex-Arbites guy had a Colt he regularly used, but I, as a player myself, was using for a looking for a better piece.
yeah,
So yeah, it's that I think depends on the player, but so far I have not encountered that. Encountered that. As soon as there is better equipment to go, people go with better equipment.
yeah. No, I like the idea of like gradual skill progressions as well. So like if you put a lot of time behind using an Uzi or an MP5 or Kalashnikov or something, I like the idea that you could stumble upon a weapon with a higher rate of fire, but because you spent more time with your previous weapon, your maybe your proficiency is more or your accuracy is just a little bit better. So it might be less it might be less of an obvious choice over the shiny new thing versus the one that you've been using. Um, so that's what I'm sort of working on.
Well, there's quite a lot to do. How
Yeah,
far would you say are you right now with your work?
I'm pretty happy with the armor. Um, I'm pretty happy. There's like different types of armor. Each armor has different what's the word? Like different armor classes, different ballistic ablative hit points, and like the heavier armor you go, the less dexterous you become, which I quite like. I like the like juggernauts can soak up damage, but they're like cumbersome.
Yeah.
I like that. Um, and like yeah, ballistic shields. Do you ever like basically it is in just like looking for like mining computer games and like real life special forces footage to see what people are equipped with, and if it exists in the world, it's going to exist in my book, hopefully. So we're working on the armor, and then next is going to be firearms because I'm trying to make I'm looking at a 50 cal like sniper rifle at the moment, and it needs to just be horrific. If you get shot with a 50 cal, you either need to be dead or extremely lucky. Yeah, so I'm working on that next, I think. I'll start at the biggest, and then I'll probably trickle down to the smaller stuff. So firearms is going to be the next thing to really get a look at.
So with all that work done and well, fairly fresh thrown in as a game master, how is it working out for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, already are like published like role playing rules for most of this stuff anyway. So I'm using what's already available and then gradually seeing what I like and don't like to tweak. So at the moment, it's just sort of playing like a sort of bastardized homebrew campaign, which is working out pretty well. And it's going to be interesting when my players start coming up against like larger caliber weapons or like high rates of fire weapons, because most of the stuff's been just like pistol battles, which everybody likes running around with a pistol and shooting people. But at some point, the guys are going to start getting to be higher tier soldiers. So I'm looking forward to them. They don't know yet, but they're going to get. At the moment, they're on a stakeout outside, like a point of origin for some money laundering. They sort of found they were at the destination point for some money laundering, a business that was, and then they collected some intel and were told that like a truckload of money, like literally a truck with money in it, was going to arrive at a certain time. So they took the truck and they sort of collected the money as evidence and got paid a bonus and that kind of thing. So they're staking out, and they're going to get if you in a car overnight, two people were asleep and one person was awake for a 4-hour shift, and they're going to be staking out for a second night. So 2 people are again going to be asleep, and one person's going to be awake, and they're going to be I don't know if they're going to be captured or murdered just straight up. But yeah, the cartel know they're there.
Oh.
So they're just going to get like cable tied and tape over their mouths and dragged out, or just murdered. I haven't decided yet. But that's what happens if you put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, the joys of being a game master. On that topic, I just remembered the moment that was quite defining for our group. That was I was game master. It was the Dark Heresy campaign. Well, sometimes a game master does something foolish and he does not know until the players exploit it. So what I have done is I gave them access to TNT. There were no explicit rules for TNT in Dark Heresy, so I gave it quite a punch. So they were on some mining slash frontier world. Tau were there too, but they did not know that, so they encountered a Tau patrol and just wasted them with TNT, what I did not expect, but it worked very well for them. And gave them hints that a bigger patrol is coming. So the Tau player of all did not recognize the warning signs I threw out there. He was like, this went so well and so quickly, so we can do that too. Well, the second Tau patrol, which was alarmed, knew they were there, not how many, but, well, they seemed to pose a threat. So a tank and some suits came in and mopped them up quite nicely. But as I have given TNT quite the punch, the last action of the tech priest was to steer the jeep into the Tau tank and quoting the demo man of Team Fortress, they have to glue you back together in hell, and detonated himself and the whole tank. That was quite a show. Well, in Dark Heresy, you have the chance to survive something like that, kind of sortish. Sure. And so they all burned their fate points and woke up in the hospital with fancy new bionics, where they definitely have lost some parts or more parts of their body in this encounter. Well, it was quite fun.
Fate points are a cool mechanism. I like them. They're cool.
Yes, it especially when the system tends to expect that your players die.
Mm.
which the Dark Heresy system does quite well, especially with its very graphic critical damage tables,
Yeah.
which are always fun to roll on. And, well, that brings me to another point. Talking about guns and realism, are uh, uh, how will you treat healing and wound patching in your system?
Yeah. So there's going to be different. Basically, there's going to be different sizes of medical kits. There's going to be like the civilian grade sort of first aid kits that you can't treat gunshots with, but you can treat other injuries. Um, and then yeah, like looking at real world, there are gunshot like trauma medical kits in real life with. So you have like tourniquets to go around, like to tourniquet blood off and things. Um, and there are like there's like I don't know if it's like a foam in a syringe, and you can sort of fill a bullet hole in somebody's torso with this kind of expanding inert foam that's well, like you can't bleed anymore because there's this foam stopping the blood sort of coming out of you. So you would do like a quick fix patch of bullet trauma and stick an adrenaline pen in somebody or something like that, or sticks of morphine, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, you would need to go to a hospital. Um, really, really, the point is to not get shot in the first place, to buy better body armor than the other guy has, and to buy body armor that covers more than just your torso. Get a helmet, get a neck guard, get something on your legs and arms. Um, so you can, yeah, there are medical kits that are similar in healing properties to just 5e D&D, like healing potions. If you take a medical kit, you can take this healing potion. It's sort of a uh, analogous, I'll say, but of course you can't take a healing potion if your ablative armor is down. You can only take a healing potion when
Yeah.
your actual health is down. So you can be walking around for a long time before you start um, needing to go to hospital or something. Um, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm just asking about that because a more realistic approach to healing
Mm.
severe wounds sometimes leads to well, awkward situations when, for example, one member of the party takes pretty severe damage and has to lie in the hospital while the rest of the group is totally unharmed.
Yeah.
Well, that happens, and then is the question: okay, what do you do as a for this player because he's taken out for up to 3 weeks? Do you just skip until he's out of hospital? Then maybe the problem comes in that the group actually is on a timer, so they have a certain time of days they
Yeah.
have to fulfill it, and this member just cuts out. Do you speed up? It is. I I tend always to cut out a long healing process, or I am more forgiving in
Mm.
that
Mm.
situation because unless it's the player's fault. Sometimes it is the player's fault, and then they have to deal with the whole consequences. It was uh, another Dark Heresy campaign where
Mm.
our guardsman got blown apart by a
Mm.
demolisher cannon, and from that on, he was torso boy for a lot of days, carried
Mm.
around by the team until we finally found the proper medical um, uh, with the proper bionics to make him
Yeah,
a valid member of the group again. And yeah, it was very, very frustrating for the
yeah,
player of this character. I mean, no one had mercy on him because no one told him to charge a demolisher, which
yeah,
is a stupid idea in the first place.
yeah.
And yeah, this is it. As I said, a long healing process sometimes leads to awkward situations for the party.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be, if you're a quadriplegic because you've been exploded, um, yeah, that's a retired character. I don't think, yeah, bionics exist in the 41st millennium, and you could, if you can quickly get a bionic set of legs and arms and an eye socket, that's cool. But yeah, if you're carrying around a torso, um, for a while, I think it should just be like I wouldn't have the player. I would just say, look, roll up a new character.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm good. Yeah, my players. One person got stood on an IED and they went to hospital. We did have them in hospital for some time. I think it was a few days, and they came out with bandages on them against doctor's orders, kind of thing. And they're going to take the bandages off in a certain amount of time, and they're going to have like facial scarring. Um, but if they were like seriously wounded, I would just say roll up a new character, or you could meet somebody in game as an NPC and then jump into their shoes, um,
Hmm.
which I quite like. Somebody who's not part of your gang, but maybe has like an alignment of objectives. I suppose they have a same interest. Um, Either they're like in my situation, they're going against drug cartels, so either the person they meet could just be in it for money because there's a big paycheck at the end if you defeat the cartel, or they somehow a family member came embroiled in the cartel and they're sort of it's personal.
Yeah.
Um, but I think yeah, if you all get if you get killed in game, it's up for either your teammates to find an NPC to for you to fill their shoes, or you've already done the work and you have a squire, or you have an apprentice, or you have a somebody who you can just go into their shoes when you get critically injured or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
which
Sounds
is a
like.
that's a
So,
tradition of D&D, right? To have backup.
well, it depends. Some people, especially when you start out, I think as a group with a fresh game master and fresh players,
Yeah,
the dungeon master does not quite know how lethal the monsters are,
yeah,
or
definitely.
well, he or she starts with the intention to pose a challenge, a life-threatening challenge to the players. We had that quite a lot with our first groups. If um, when the position of the players and the dungeon master were quite adversary. Well, the dungeon master plays the adversaries, but
Yeah,
he should not. In my dungeon master philosophy, I as dungeon master should not be per se the adversary. I just should be able to
yeah,
pose a challenge for my players, and I
yeah,
think that is something that happens quite a lot when you start out and do not know the handle of it, or and well. But a lot of times players have to get used to that their actions have consequences. That
yeah,
is quite even it becomes quite baffling later in campaigns when you have some actions when you look at the person and
mm.
you did not really think that through now, have you? And yes, some players just have their backup ready. I mean, I played Call of Cthulhu,
Okay.
a very unforgiving system that well, depending on the game master, of course. It is a system you know from the start that you might want to have backup. On the
Yeah.
other hand, you have systems like Paranoia where you already start with 5 clones because
Hmm.
the setting is that you will die in most hilarious ways, mostly caused by yourself or your teammates.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
it's a dungeon master's job to. I don't think it's a dungeon master's job to like. I don't like. I'm I'm more than happy to send like insurmountable challenges to my players if they're of a like not not a really high level. If you're if you have some abilities and you have some like unusual equipment, maybe not starting off, but not halfway, I guess. It should be like challenges should be difficult. They should be interesting, but they should also be like you should be able to solve them not just by this one thing, like kill the guy and then you're fine. I think it's hard to sort of get right when you're doing it like as a new player. But if you, which I am, but I've had people on cavalry charging across and going to murder my players, and my players have like used magical abilities to like good effect, and they were outnumbered, and they were being charged at by um, orcs on massive wargs, and which is dangerous. Like if you get chomped by a warg, you could die. Um,
or
but my
tackled
players,
or run down.
yeah, tackle, yeah, and the thing is, they can charge you and attack you, and you can be fall prone. So you're already limited because your movement is halved. Um, so there's less like tactical options for you if you are end up being prone. But yeah, they had spells, and they sort of worked together, and they solved that encounter by killing everybody. Um, but yeah, it's I think making encounters also isn't just about having hard monsters. It's about having um, battlefields that are not just like a square field with a 5 foot grid all over it. Um, Having different types of terrain, having quicksand or trees or um, climbable objects, another height, corners, um, window frames that you can hide behind, or barrels or something. Um, that's more interesting than just a big dragon on a featureless void. Um, so, yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to have choke points in corridors where you're going to go through this, but it's going to be dangerous because you're single file and you can't overtake each other or stand three abreast. You have to stand like it's a space hulk or something. You know, like one guy's in front, and he gets killed, and the second guy goes. Um, so there's definitely different ways of being threatening without just having a really big monster.
Yeah, that is a good. Well, I totally agree. I totally
Yeah,
agree. It is uh, well, especially in the start, you might plan out some traps or challenges that
yeah,
the players realize when they are in it, and players tend to get wary quite quickly.
yeah,
And another thing, you started out in 2018 as a dungeon master, game
yeah,
master. As
yeah,
the
yeah.
did you use tutorial videos or are you completely self-taught?
Yeah, no, I am not completely self-taught at all. Listeners at home, my recommendations for D&D content first and foremost is, and I didn't start watching this firstly. I found it later, but it's the best. It's called Dimension 20, and it's on YouTube. You can watch. It's like a live play D&D stream. There's 6 players, a dungeon master, and there are like 2 series. The first series is going around a high school in sort of, it's not 1950s America because there's magic. So there's dragons and also like skateboarders, that kind of thing. And
sounds like a Saturday morning series.
Yeah, it's like, it's a comedy show. It's not like serious, but it's amazing. And their second series, which I've just sort of started now, is more, it's sort of set in New York. It's set in like modern day New York, but there's like a magical undercurrent. So people have iPhones and people have guns, but there are also like magical abilities and things, and that's a really cool fusion. It's mostly fantasy, but with like a skin of modern day over the top. It's not like gritty shooters and stuff. It's mostly like a sort of reskin swords and shields game, but it's really cool. And then Matt Colville on YouTube and Dale Kingsmill, Monarch's Factory on YouTube as well. They're what I started out watching Matt Colville, and then I mean there's so many people doing videos on D&D. So I guess there's a lot. You can choose what you like the style of. Maybe you don't like the style of this one guy, you like the style of somebody else. So yeah, that's what I did. I sort of in a vacuum watched some YouTube videos, and then I didn't bully my friends into playing D&D, but they were cool with it, and we started playing anti-cartel game. That was cool.
So it is part of the joys of a dungeon master to be bamboozled by your players. Did that happen to you? What is your favorite bamboozle?
I don't. My players for the sort of modern day campaign, it's a hack and slash essentially. So nobody has done anything except for walk down the corridor laden with traps.
Very straightforward.
It's very much like I'm at one end of the corridor. On the other end of the corridor is my objective, and there are tripwires which I didn't realize were there. Rather than I climb up the outside of the building to get to the target, and it's very much like I'm going to go through the dangerous bit and I'm going to come out the other end potentially alive. So they haven't had the chance to fox me. I did get foxed when I was running a one-shot. I was running a one-shot, and basically Hogwarts was they turned up, and Hogwarts was already captured by evil rat people, and the evil rat people were skinning Hogwarts students alive to make a big cauldron of flesh, and they were boiling up a huge rat ogre. So the game starts with the students are dead, and if you know your Harry Potter Wikipedia page, you can just go into Dumbledore's office and get a time turner from his desk and just wind it back however many hours until the students aren't dead. And that you can do that, right? Because time turnings exist, but nobody's thought of that yet. The way the campaign's supposed to work is Nearly Headless Nick tells you to go to the common rooms. You go through each common room. There's an encounter theme to the common room. and you get a piece of the Sword of Gryffindor. You get all the 4 common rooms, you get all 4 pieces of the Sword of Gryffindor, and you assemble it. And then the Sword of Gryffindor is magical, but if you get sorted into the Gryffindor house by the Sorting Hat, you have to go to Dumbledore's office, or you have to know where the Sorting Hat is. You get sorted. You could get sorted into Slytherin or Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw. If you get sorted into Gryffindor, the Sword of Gryffindor becomes like activated, and it's like better. And then you go down. Then you go put the murder on the evil rat men. You save if there's any children left over. You save them. You kill the big soup rat monster, and then you, somebody says, "Hey, there's a time machine in Dumbledore's office. Didn't you see that?" And you go, "Oh yeah." And you wind it back, and then you kill the rat men all over again before they have a chance to put the murder on or the like Harry Potter and stuff. But one person, one group, they decided they were just going to go into the Great Hall, where the rat people have like skeletons of freshly flayed students, and they've put all the skin and organs into a big cauldron, and that's how they're going to boil up a big flesh soup and summon a big rat ogre. One of them said, "Oh, I'm just going to call out for the Sword of Gryffindor because you can do that. It'll come to a Gryffindor in time of need." And what greater time of need is there than surrounded by Skaven? So he said, "I call forth the Sword of Gryffindor." And I was like, "Oh God, you haven't been sorted, so he doesn't even know if he's a Gryffindor or not. And they haven't gone, like, it's in 4 separate pieces in these common rooms." But I was like, "Yeah, you can have the Sword of Gryffindor. It flies into your hand." And then he had it was a Holy Avenger, but you change a couple of the words, and it becomes the Sword of Gryffindor. And they chopped up all the rat men and like saved the day. So that was a bamboozle that I wasn't particularly ready for. But I haven't had anybody like I have all these lists of names prepared up, so when they ask, "What's the name of this innkeeper? What's the name of the guy selling vegetables? Hey, what's the name of this washerwoman? What's the name of this man? What's the name of her?" I can just say, "This person's called this and this and this." But people haven't done that, and nobody's been, "What's this person's name?" And I haven't had I've got all these lists of names like pre-generated, ready to just cross off. But nobody's done that, and I don't. Yeah, it was weird.
It might happen if you include them more into, I don't know, have to ask people
Yeah,
stuff. Sometimes players are just not interested in NPCs. It happens.
exactly. Yeah,
Well, what more can I say? We already burned through our time.
and we did.
Yes, we did. So please tell everyone how to find how to find you on
How to
Instagram.
find?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's Gazpacho Tabletop. Gazpacho is a reference to a British science fiction television program, and I might as well just tell you it's Red Dwarf. It's a
Yeah.
Red Dwarf because Red Dwarf's great, and tabletop because the word tabletop. Yeah, I'm working on like so slowly, miniatures for my next campaign when the pandemic's all over and when my players have finished with their current campaign. They're going to have it's going to be the Judgment Day of Terminator in 1997, and except that it wasn't thwarted by Sarah and John and the Terminator in the second Terminator film. So I'm building up Terminators and humans for an apocalyptic sort of nuclear wasteland game. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And then eventually, I'm working on a player's handbook for like my own fantasy campaign setting, and this player's handbook for sort of modern day / nuclear apocalypse / Cold War kind of game, which will be on the Dungeon Masters Guild. I mean, at some point, like in a couple of years, maybe. It's sort of plodding away slowly. So, yeah, you'll find links to whatever gets put up on my Instagram, Gazpacho Tabletop.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
No, thanks for
And
having me.
I wish you all the best, and may our Wonder Win twin powers help us to more free stuff.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask you something. And yeah, if I was listening at home to this episode, I would have been like, for 40 minutes, been like, what's the answer to this question? Because you said you were playing a gorilla
Oh,
in Cambodia.
yes,
Were you playing a gorilla or were you playing a gorilla?
a animal gorilla.
Right. Rather than a untrained militia person, you were playing a gorilla.
I played a gorilla. I was very strong. I did very strong stuff, but for all the rest, I was just a friendly beast that really liked to eat and hang around with his pals. It was
Cool.
quite fun.
Cool. I needed to know that. I was like, what do you mean? And I didn't ask it when I should have done. So I
Yeah.
asked it now. So thanks for
I think
thanks
I
for
talked
illuminating.
over you. Okay. I wish everybody a good time, and until next time, goodbye.